Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 9th Wandsworth Coronavirus Business Forum, an opportunity for businesses to have your say, where we have featured senior members from Wandsworth Council and expert speakers to try and help you through this pandemic. There is a chat function on this meeting, and we'd encourage you to put your questions on the chat function, but also if you've got an offer or want some help, or just promoting your business, feel free to put that in the chat and we will circulate that later. It just means that if you want people to contact you, if you want to contact people, if you publicize your details on the chat box, it just makes it easy for us to share that with you. So today, the theme really is on recovery. And as well as our speakers from the council, Councillor Cook and Graham Russell, who will update us on what's happening in Wandsworth. We have Joe Erskine, who's the General Manager for the M&S store in Clapham Junction. M&S are at the forefront of thinking on the retail environment, and Joe will hopefully be able to help us on some of the things that we need to do and what it's really like out there in the retail sector. We'll also be hearing from one of our chamber partners, Neil Cambell, who's the Chief Executive of Risk Dashboard. And Neil's developed a great platform to help businesses manage risk and compliance. After our speakers, we'll have a panel Q&A session. So if I could ask you to just save your questions till the end, that would be absolutely fantastic. That's enough from me. I'm now going to ask Councillor Jonathan Cook, who's the lead for business in Wandsworth Council and the Deputy Leader of the Council, to address you. Jonathan, over to you.
Well, thank you, Steve. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the invitation and organising these meetings. They're so useful. Can I just say we're hugely conscious of the council that for businesses, things are getting more difficult for many people. It's becoming more and more urgent. So, very conscious of that. Maybe if I could start by just giving a little overview of what's happening right across the council. Obviously, we won't do everything, and then some specifics that we've been up to since the last call, a little bit about one of the new grants, and a little bit about thinking ahead, which is theme of today. Right across the council, the community hub remains the main means for residents to get in touch with us. It's still busy, not as busy as it was, but we're still directing all inquiries to that. It's proved to be very effective. One of the main developments this week has been that we are focused on reopening of primary schools next Monday, 1st of June. Vast majority, with our support over a whole range of activities, are going to be able to do that. So we're very pleased by that. This is all in line with government guidelines. The council's many housing construction sites are beginning to open up again and become active, and the same is true of the very large sites at 9 Elms. So that's all very, very welcome. Working closely with the police on issues of real concern around domestic abuse. I think I've mentioned this before. Making information about that, anyone who's got concerns, is as available as possible, and there's a lot on the council there if anyone has been facing difficulties. Testing is now happening in the borough on a regular basis, and we've put in place a number of road closures and pavement widening schemes, which you're probably beginning to see, and other services are beginning to get back to normal. So rubbish, for example, is now collection is now absolutely back to normal, and it hopefully hasn't been too interrupted. We've made it a real priority to keep the place looking good over the last few weeks. So getting a bit more specific, I've written 2 more letters. I've already written some weeks ago to the Chancellor and Business Secretary, communicating concerns of businesses. I followed up last week, Thursday and Friday, to the Business Secretary, Alex Sharma, in particular highlighting the plight of hospitality businesses and all of those related to it, who of course stand kind of right behind the sort of retail world in many ways, but aren't eligible, or consumer facing, should I say, but aren't eligible for any grant help. And that's we've got many businesses in the borough who are facing real difficulties because of that. And it seems to me to be a huge gap, really. So I've written to the business secretary highlighting that, and you know, we will continue to bang that drum. Very aware that's a big problem. And picking up on something that came up at last week's meeting, I've written to the small business minister highlighting what you might describe as the general medical sector, who have a similar problem, fallen between various schemes. So dentists, physiotherapists, osteopaths, and the like. So they went off end of last week, those letters, and yeah, we'll carry on with that message on behalf of the borough's businesses. There's been a lot of interest in the discretionary business grant, and late on Friday evening we did get some more guidance on that, pleased to say, which has helped really sort of nail the criteria from the government's perspective of the scheme. And so we've been working very closely right over the weekend, and you know, we're right at it now, in particular with other councils as well, seeing how they're designing their schemes. And it does look very much as though all councils will be following the guidance of the four main targets. So it's overall it's targeted at small businesses. It looks like most grants will be in the region of £5,000, with scope for less if it's more appropriate. We obviously want the money that we've been allocated to go as far as possible. It's not enough, I have to say. 2.9 million for Wandsworth sounds like a lot, but when you compare that we've sent out 48 million, Mr. Russ will be able to give us the latest figure, in grants already. That puts it in some perspective, and if you divide 2.9 million to 5,000, you get about 580 grants. So we do think it's going to be oversubscribed. We're trying to design the scheme to be as fair as it possibly can be. We hope to launch it next week and have payments flowing, we would very much hope by mid-June. So that the main, just one more little thing on that really, I suppose, is well, big thing is the criteria, the groupings rather. Market traders, bed and breakfast, not a big thing in Wandsworth particularly. Charities where it's not a retail situation, and businesses in shared workspaces, which will probably be the largest category. So we're working very hard to get that scheme properly designed, and as I say, hopefully launch it next week. We're also now very much looking to the future and supporting businesses as lockdown continues to ease and we enter a recovery phase. So we're pleased to have just got some central government funding for physical measures. So all sorts of things that are going on in the town centres, that should help that. So this is distancing and working with businesses to provide advice and make that all possible, to practical measures like stickers on the ground and all that sort of thing. And of course it relates to what I already mentioned about road changes. And then sort of slightly bigger picture on that, we're also beginning to think about what the planning implications of this longer term might be. Clearly, we're all going to need more space as long as social distancing is in place. And we're thinking too about the changes in behaviour. I'll be fascinated to hear from Joe about the Clapham Junction M&S experience, but it does seem obvious that people are identifying much more closely with their own neighbourhoods and walking in preference to using transport for their own cars. And so that's in many ways very welcome. It's a much more sustainable way of living, and we want to do everything we can to support that. But means some quite big changes in the way we approach planning, transport, and the longer term look of our town centres. And interestingly, we've had a lot of suggestions already of where we might be able to close roads temporarily or create wider, much bigger sort of piazza-like spaces. So we're looking at that with real interest. These things are, of course, always a balance. In London Borough, spaces at a premium, but it's a fascinating question to be looking at, because obviously so much has changed, and we will talk about the new normal, point being that the old normal isn't going to come back. We're very conscious of that. So I'll maybe leave it there if I may. Very happy to take questions, and you'll be very interested in this morning's feedback. So thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Jonathan. We have had one question, which is around parking. Is there any facility for volunteers and businesses working with food banks and other charities to, I think someone mentioned a code that will help them?
I'd have to specifically check that. Mr. Russell might know. I mean, there's still the exemption in place for NHS workers. Food banks, I must admit, off the top of my head, I don't know. Mr. Russell might know.
Yeah, there's no current specific exemption for food bank workers. I think that the problem with it is in closely being able to closely define the group of people who are doing that kind of supporting voluntary work and having some formal type of proof that is incontrovertible.
Probably something to consider. So with that, could I introduce and ask Graham to come back on and give us an update on the implementation process, and in particular talk about the discretionary business grants and when that might actually start to happen.
Okay, good morning everybody. I'll just start with the what now seems like the old grants. We've paid 3,141 to the value of 49.25 million. At the moment, those schemes remain open. So as I say each week, if you do know anybody who hasn't yet applied and they think they may be eligible, then they can go to the website and they can still access those grants. In terms of the discretionary scheme, I think Councillor Cook has laid out the key points. It's not enough money to deal with what we believe will be the level of demand. That means that the council has to identify priorities and criteria against which to judge applications and limit the numbers that it can pay out. Clearly, the more businesses that are eligible, the smaller the payments are going to be, which may render them not particularly useful. And obviously, the harder the criteria are to fulfil, the larger the payments, but the more people are disappointed. So it's a kind of no-win situation at the moment all round, a very difficult scheme. We are looking at what neighbouring boroughs and other boroughs around the country are doing. And as Councillor Cook says, the majority of them are sticking reasonably closely to the government guidelines. We haven't yet got a finally detailed scheme. We are looking to try and finalise that this week. Just a couple of points that are of interest. The government changed one of its mandatory criteria over the weekend. So anybody who is in receipt of self-employment support is now eligible for the new discretionary grant scheme. They weren't previously. That's a double-edged sword. Obviously, that increases the potential number of eligible businesses, which then feeds back into the problems I've just talked about. In terms of the application process, we're not sure precisely what that's going to look like, but anybody who thinks that they will be eligible for this should, at the moment, be looking to get the paperwork together. We will probably be asking for proofs of current property costs. That might be a copy of a lease, rental contract, mortgage, whatever it happens to be. And we are required to have some kind of proof of the impact of COVID-19. So that will be looking at last year's accounts, this year's management accounts, a letter from your accountant, whatever it happens to be. So I'd advise people to start getting those things together so that it's not a mad rush when the application process opens. We are probably going to have to go for a time-limited application process because otherwise it becomes first come, first serve on the money, and we don't really think that's a fair approach. So it's likely to be, I would think, probably a 10 working day window when applications can be received. There'll be an online form for people to fill in. So I think it's a question of watch the council website. We'll be doing a lot of comms around this to try and get the word out as best we can. So it's a question of just watching this space, really. That's it from me, Steve.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Graham. I'm sure there'll be some questions coming up later on as we get closer and closer to June, when non-essential businesses will be able to open. So now I'd like to introduce Joe Erskine. Joe's the General Manager of the Marks and Spencer's branch in Clapham Junction, one of the most respected retail businesses. And Joe's going to talk us through what the landscape is like out there during COVID and what businesses should look to when they're considering opening again. So Joe, over to you.
Thanks very much. Morning, everyone. Thanks for inviting me along today. Really looking forward to kind of talking you through what we've been doing the last few months. What I'm hoping I can do is let you know how it's felt trading through the last few months and how I've had to think differently in my store and with my team and the way we're working. If I'm honest, most of what I'll cover is stuff you probably already know and would have seen around your local area, but hopefully there'll be a couple of useful points for you that you can take away. However, what I will say is, as you'll have seen, the government guidelines have come out this week and have been published this week. So I just want to encourage everyone, that should be your first point of action. I don't want to be the go-to place for any guidance or any practical measures, but that's out there now. So that should be your first point of call with your own risk assessment, which we've obviously done and found that really useful. But hopefully some of my experiences should help too. And as you all know, it's important we get this right for the safety of our customers, for our colleagues and our communities as well. Firstly, I wanted to start by just sharing actually how impressed I've been by our customers' reaction to the measures so far that we've put in place. It's clear they're very understanding to the fact that even though these measures make their day-to-day lives a little bit more difficult, they know they're in place for their safety, and this is very much at the forefront of their minds. And as Jonathan just said as well, community right now is very much at the forefront of our customers' mind as well. So I wanted to start by saying there has been quite a lot of positive reaction, and even though this situation is a positive one, there has been some positives to come out of it, in particular how customers have responded to everything that we've asked for them. So hopefully that gives you a bit of, for those who haven't traded yet, who are going to, gives you a bit of confidence and comfort to know our communities are willing to adapt and support us through that transition. So firstly, I wanted to, before I go on and talk about kind of practical measures, I want to talk about some of the changes in behaviour that I've really thought about for myself and my team. So as a leader of a business in our area, I have had to think differently about my approach and my priorities each day. It's very different to how I've been working previously. And obviously we were still trading throughout the outbreak. And understandably, we were quite reactive at the time, and our processes and daily operations evolved probably day in, day out around how everyone was evolving. And I know for a lot of you, this will now be trading in new territory, and you may not know how your business will trade. But my biggest bit of advice is if I had that opportunity to kind of stop and rethink before we started trading again, I would really take that opportunity to review your daily operation, because trust me, however you operated before will probably not be right for these times and for our new customer demands. So it's really worth investing that bit of time to think about what your BAU it feels like. One of the most important things I've learned over the last few months is social distancing doesn't mean being unsocial. I've seen from my team that since social distancing has come into place, everyone kind of went a bit inward to start with, became very conscious of their own safety, their own space and the people around them, and rightly so, that was the right thing to do. However, I felt like human interaction began to stop a little bit to the level that we were used to. So that's why I've been talking to my team around it's social distancing, but it's not being unsocial. And I think if we can get that right and we can get human interaction to the right level, I think it's more important than ever, basically, that we're friendly, that we're helpful, and we're welcoming our customers back into our businesses. And actually, commercially, it'll be the right thing to do for everyone if we are approaching this in the most positive, friendly way that we possibly can, whilst keeping safety at the forefront of everything we're doing. Another important behavioural aspect that I've learned is how much the positives of listening and talking to my team and those who are working day in, day out on the front line, as your teams and as you will all be. Some are really worried, understandably. Some have amazing ideas, if I'm really honest with you, and a lot of what we've done as a business has come from our colleagues on the front line. But if I'm honest, most just want to be part of the conversation, and most of our colleagues and people we work with really do. So that also kind of relates to us as kind of leaders amongst ourselves and between each other, the collaborative leadership, I find, and inclusive leadership has made a whole world of difference right now, and has made things quite easier, much easier actually, compared to what they potentially could have been. So shortly, I'm going to go through a few practical examples of what we're doing in store, which hopefully will help and some things you can take away. But what I wanted to share first is what we found is it's not only important to implement these practical changes, it's important that our customers see these in place as well. So whether that's a quick clean of a pin pad, increase of washing and hands, it's important that we're not only doing this day in, day out, we're doing it in front of our customers as well. Because what we do is important, but the perception of what we do is also important to keep yourself and our customers safe, and ensure this is visible. And this is definitely something the customers will want to see, and ultimately will make them want to come back to your business as well if they see you doing these measures. So some practical measures of things we've put in place to keep our customers safe. But again, what I would say is reference the government guidelines, because since the weekend these have come out, and these have been really useful for me just to go back and refresh around what we're doing and what we're doing as a business. So the first one is capacity. The biggest difference to the way I'm trading, the way we all trade in, is how we've got to maintain a safe environment in our store, and ultimately that means the capacity of amount of people we have in our businesses and stores and different units. And the most important thing is being in control of that. The biggest customer feedback I've had is they want to see us in control of the capacity, so they know they're walking in to a safe environment. This is going to work differently for all of you. How we've approached it is we've looked at our square footage, and we've kind of worked back from there and thought, right, okay, this is how much our square footage is. This means we can get X amount of people in a safe environment, allowing 2 meters at least. So that's how we worked, but how you work will be obviously down to your unit. But even though we have that capacity, I suppose the biggest bit of advice I can give is discretion is needed throughout the day. You'll have pinch points in your business that will limit or allow more or less, and kind of that leadership makes a whole difference to how you'll ultimately trade. Unfortunately, capacity means queues, as you've all seen. For businesses and customers, it's meant queuing for quite a lot of things we do in our day-to-day lives now. But obviously, we know this is necessary to keep things safe. But even though you're keeping safe, what I would say, you need a trade as well. You need to be able to start the trade and start that customers coming into your store. So the biggest bit of advice I can give here around queues is make sure that experience is in your business is as quick and efficient as possible, and as seamless as possible, because it allows that queue, or whatever way you're maintaining capacity, it allows that to be moving much quicker if your operation is as efficient as possible. A bit of a watch out, I think, for all of us, me included. More businesses are opening now, and you'll have neighbours who would have been closed, or there'll be more of you opening, and our queues might start infringing on each other, or might start making things a little less safe than they were before. So again, coming back to my previous point around collaborative working, I think in your local communities, your local high streets or your local areas, start talking to each other. I know I'm going to be speaking to my neighbours who are about to open some of their doors, to make sure, one, my customers are safe, but two, I'm not affecting their business negatively by having a queue that goes across their front door. So I think that's a really important thing to start thinking about now over the coming weeks. So that's the queue and capacity thing to think about. But most importantly is, and look, I know not everyone has the resource to do this, but if you are able to have someone controlling that flow of customers and the queue, this will help your business flow and your trade flow much quicker if there's someone there managing that for you. However, what I have had is a lot of feedback from customers saying they don't want to feel like they're approaching a bouncer on the door, or they're about to enter a security check. They want to be welcomed by someone who's warm, who's friendly, who's going to welcome back into their business. So just make sure that experience, that's the positive I've seen, that experience, it's the first time they'll re-interact with you. And for a lot of our customers, remember, the interaction you're getting with them maybe is the only interaction, especially for our vulnerable customers, they get for that whole week. So If we can make it as warm and friendly as possible, trust me, it'll go a long way with them. A bit of an obvious one, but cleaning is very important right now for our customers. We've put in additional cleaning of all contact services and just general cleaning in our store. So whether that's trolleys, baskets, pin pads, handrails, it's all very important. And like I said, should be part of your day-to-day, but also do it in front of your customers. Like I say, if after every time there's a transaction or different things, compared whatever's relevant to your business, make sure they see you doing those extra bits. But the biggest thing that we all know of all cleaning that we've really been pushing our store is the cleaning of your own hands. And that's the most hygienic thing we can do right now, and is the biggest difference to all the safety of all of our businesses, and doing that as much as possible. So we have customer assistants who serve on till points, and we've made sure they're coming off and they're cleaning hands, etc., as much as possible. That kind of leads me on to my next point around payment. So if payment is relevant to your business and you do have a payment experience in your business, ensuring this is as efficient as possible will help you. We have encouraged contactless payment, not only because it's quicker, but it's safer as well. And I'm not sure if you all know, but throughout this period, that's increased. So that's now £45. So that's gone up from the previous limit. So something that will help you keep that experience quick. However, I know some people have considered this. We haven't removed cash, even though we know we've encouraged against it because it's safer to use contactless. We've done this to protect our most vulnerable customers who rely on cash, so especially our elderly customers, and they rely heavily on cash. So, and we've kept that as an option as well. Pinch points in your business. This is going to be different for all of you, but customers' demands have changed, and they've changed massively for us over the last few months. So we've had to adapt the flow and the layout of our business to reflect that. Not only has this made it more commercial for us in how we trade, because we've, related to the demands of our customer, it'll also make sure your business is a safer place, because it'll remove some of the pinch points within your store. So look, I'm a food retailer, so if I tell you an example of that would be all my fresh meat and fish and poultry and all that stuff, there's a higher demand for people scratch cooking, and less demand for convenience because people want stuff that lasts them the week. So we've related our flow and our layout in response to that, and it's helped us commercially and allowed us to be more safer as a retailer as well. Protective kit, I'm not going to go into PPE and start talking about anything to do with that. The guidance is there, and the guidance is clear on what should or shouldn't be done and what's advised. But just to let you know what we have done to make our teams and our customers feel safer is we've put in sneeze guards at our till points. And we have given our team the option, we haven't enforced it, the option to wear visors if they want to. And that's all in line with government guidelines as well. The next bit I wanted to share was signage. So we've made sure we've increased how we're communicating to our customers with in-store signage across our shop to create awareness of what we're doing and what we're trying to do to keep social distancing in place, hand washing, etc., and tell customers everything we're doing, and also what we need from them to help us and to help each other. So signage is really important right now to communicate. However, my biggest bit of advice around signage is keep it clear and keep it professional and keep it professional looking. And this isn't going away, and these restrictions are going to be in for a while. So it might be worth investing into some more professional looking signage, some floor stickers, whatever it is that's relevant to you. Because for me, if your signage and how you present your business looks professional, it sets the tone for the rest of your store. And I think people will see that you're taking everything more seriously. That's kind of a lot of the stuff I've talked about in terms of front of house in our businesses, but back of house of our businesses is really important also. It's not just our customers we need to think about, it's our teams, it's ourselves, it's our colleagues. So make sure you're thinking about the journey of your colleagues and yourself and your teams and your businesses. For us, this has included break areas, staggered breaks, facilities, how we're allowing them to wash hands more. Is that all available to our colleagues? Because they're coming in and they're doing a lot for us by coming out onto the front line. So I need to make sure they're protected and they feel safe in their environment also. This one is a little bit of a random one, but one I wanted to share with you. As a business, we've started using the ACT. It's called the ACT app, ACT. And it's actually the anti-counter-terrorism app, which sounds a bit strange when I'm talking to you about that. But it's free for all businesses and is an official government-led app. And actually, they push other advice and updates out as well, including things around coronavirus. And just generally, especially if you're an independent business, this is free and it allows you to access things that allows you to trade safely and more securely, more importantly. And like I said, there's a lot of advice being pushed through around coronavirus right now. So it's something I found useful. It's free for everyone. All you've got to do is email them. It's government-led and they'll give you a login, which I can circulate through Steve later in any minutes that we're sending out. So that's free for everyone, which I thought was might be handy. Communicating with your customers, that's really important right now. I know I've mentioned at the top that community is really important right now. Local media is actually, and local social media especially, is actually playing a massive part of how customers are shopping right now and how they're interacting with businesses, much more than any big TV adverts or campaigns that I've been used to being in a big business. So actually that plays into the advantage of small independent businesses because we can really utilize local social media within your local area. I know I'm utilizing the local bid social media right now and they're helping drive business in our area. So that's a real useful thing for everyone to be utilizing right now. And most importantly, letting them know you're open and you're ready to trade in a safe way. So they're the kind of practical bits. I hope I could share some of the behavioral stuff as well and the leadership stuff that I've had to rethink about. I hope you found it helpful in some way. Look, it's been a very different way of working for me and it has been for all of us. But my biggest bit of advice, whether that's within your business or within your community, is to work together, is to listen to each other right now, listen to your team, because the amount I've learned from them and my neighbours and my community has been invaluable. And we've got to keep our customers and our community safe right now, so we can ultimately all get back to trading our businesses in the way that we want to, as quick as possible. So that's it from me. Hope you found that helpful, and yeah, I'll hand back over to you.
Thank you very much, Joe. If you could put the contact details for that ACT app on the chat box, it'll be shared automatically. I love what you had to say about businesses, and in particular, some of the softer measures like, controlling queues. We've been out there shopping and it's very interesting to see the different ways that people handle this. Some are like the bouncer types and just antagonize. And I think what people have to realize is that, if you're a retailer, if you're a business, you're coming at it from your perspective, but you should be looking at it through your customer's eyes as well. They've been queuing up there for ages. They're probably getting frustrated with having to do this every time they go shopping. So from their perspective, wouldn't it be great if someone just had a big smile and a welcome and, yes, you have to be firm, but this is an opportunity to show leadership and to actually build in loyalty, because people will remember the way that you've treated them. Hats off to you for addressing that, and thank you for being a leading retailer in the UK. So with that, I'm going to pass over to Neil Cambell. Now, Neil runs Risk Dashboard. There are hundreds and thousands of businesses that wish they had a business continuity plan in place before COVID struck. Sometimes it's one of the things that you put off to last. But having that plan means that you know where everything is, you can access everything, and you've considered all the risks and have processes and policies in place. The Risk Dashboard is a great tool, and I know that Neil is talking to the British Chambers of Commerce and lots of institutions and government about having this almost as a mandatory tool for businesses, so that businesses do consider risks and plan for them. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Neil, and I think Neil's going to screen share with you. Neil, would you like to come on?
Thank you very much, Steve, and thanks for the invitation. It's very kind. And Joe, I've made a few notes of everything that you've been saying with regards to the approach that M&S have been taking, in particular to the customers, but more in particular to the staff. And I think it's as would be expected from Marks and Spencer's. So the risk dashboard, we're a software company. We are part of a larger group of companies based in Staffordshire. Our head office is in Staffordshire. We are members of the Wandsworth Chamber. We're actually members of an awful lot of chambers in the UK. We're a technology company, and we work in the main with chambers, with accountants, and a growing number of local enterprise partnerships. And the reason why we do this is that we've got technology which is quite different to anything else you'll find in the marketplace when it comes to understanding how you develop resilience in business planning. Now, 6 or 7 weeks ago, when we were all brought into this COVID crisis in the country, my partners and I sat back and thought, well, what is it we can do in order to something free to use, something for the greater good? So we've taken our technology and we've developed a free to use application. So why did we do this? It didn't take us terribly long to consider that if we can reduce the number of SMEs that go insolvent, then clearly that's going to have a very positive effect to the economy. And if there are businesses that are staying in work, then if we're reducing unemployment, of course, there's going to be a tremendous positive impact on our social services. And finally, the trickiest part of all, and I think that all businesses have to consider very carefully, is how it is that we manage to guide our people back into work safely, taking into account some of the measures that Joe mentioned earlier, cleaning contact services, signage. We'll go into some of this in a bit more detail. The government published a few weeks ago their 5 key guidelines for returning staff back to work. And we've considered these 5 key guidelines and we've turbocharged them. And we've come up with 20 plus questions for SMEs to consider in this particular module, which is staff back to work, and what a business may want to consider, adopt and apply to provide this, this confidence for their staff, that they've done all of the correct measures, they've applied as much guidance as possible into the business for staff and of course for customers. Now, getting all of this done, we're rather hoping that the economy will move on safely and getting back to work, that will reduce any negative impact of any recession in the UK. And of course, if we're doing all of that, then hopefully mass unemployment is going to be what we're going to achieve. So what we've done is we've created, and I'm just going to show you this, we've created here a what I refer to down the left-hand side as a number of modules. So we've got things like finance, outsourced suppliers, office costs. Now, these particular modules are there for an SME to consider, what is it that I can do to perhaps rein in some of my costs and expenditure? What is it I can do to review my invoicing? What costs right now can I suspend? Is there anything that I can renegotiate with some of my suppliers? Most businesses are going to be in exactly the same position as everybody else on this call. So it's a kind of way of using an aid memoir to consider, is there something that I can do as a business owner which is going to help me come through this recession? And you'll see finance, outsourced, office, transport, and then finally return to work. So this 3 module is a very simple application, and Steve will be able to provide details, so I can certainly put the link on the chat in a moment to everybody. There are a set of questions. The questions are weighted depending on the type of business that you are. So a retailer like Marks and Spencer's is going to be quite different to a firm of accountants on how they operate within their businesses. So we weight questions within the dashboard to allow the business owner to consider the output once you see this. So you simply go through looking at what these questions are. So I'll show you a couple of examples. I'm not going to spend time doing this because that wouldn't be productive, but it's a set of questions, thought-provoking, if I can describe it like that. So have you reviewed your merchant service contract? So if you're a business who perhaps is taking card payment through e-commerce or as a retailer, if you haven't reviewed your merchant card service contracts, perhaps now is the right time to be doing something like this, where a lot of businesses will be looking to negotiate improved terms or extended terms. I think the merchant card service providers will be looking to support businesses, because the last thing they want are organisations going into insolvency or administration. So the more businesses that we can keep, obviously, trading, the better. So you'd simply go through completing some of these questions. So in that instance, I'll just randomly select no. So do you know which majority of your customers represents the majority of your sales? We say no, and you'll just, what happens is reviewing payments. Once you go through these questions, and I can promise you to complete all of these modules down here on the left-hand side, it's going to take you 10-15 minutes. Return to work. We've identified what I think is over and above government guidelines. So we've got 20 key questions in here. We've got a question here, if I can quickly find it, with regards to Legionella. Now, businesses, certainly in office blocks that have been unoccupied for some period of time, and if you're going to go back into work into an office, whether that's as a visitor or as an employee, there's a probability there's going to be a lot of standing water. So you've got to consider, what are the implications when it comes to different areas of risks within a business. You'll see here, question 15, do you have cleaning protocols for commonly touched items, doors, so on and so forth? So building a policy around all of this. So you'd simply go through each of these modules on the left-hand side. And once you've completed them, the little button down here which says submit audit will ping. This gives you an idea you need to do something. And then once you've hit submit audit, so as a result of how you've completed a question, you would then have a task which tells you, there's something that you need to do, something you need to follow through on. So again, no particular order. Review CBIL and furloughing implications. So that question would have been, have you considered furloughing your staff and what those implications are to your business when it comes to CBIL grants? So as you see, as I hover over here, it grays out, so it's saying I've got something to do. So we have a question. You then have an action as a result of how you've answered the question. And then we've put in here what we refer to as an information article. So the information article is additional content to allow business owners to understand what more it is they need to do, or what the implications are to their business to get something done. We also build into these information articles where we can.
Can I just link there? Your screen's not updating.
Sorry, is it just taking a second to catch up, Steve?
No, it's just stayed on the original screen that you had.
Oh, right. I do apologize. Right. Can somebody deal with the waiting room?
Okay. If you could unshare and share your screen again, we'll try and get that sorted.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got you back. If you'd like to just...
Okay, appreciate that. So did we get as far as understanding these questions in the modules and how they worked?
Yeah, I've still got your cash demos screen.
Right, okay. I'm not quite sure what's slowing me up. So have you got the cash demo screen in front of you, Steve?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so I'll just walk through this quickly. On the left-hand side, there are the modules. They are weighted questions.
Yeah, sorry, Neil, we got all of that.
Ah, right, okay, I did ask. Okay, so on the results section in that case, what we've developed are the actions that a business that would need to take, again, all free of charge, to help them get through the coronavirus crisis that we're through. So if you consider the very sensitive nature of getting your staff back into work, the excellent advice that Joe was providing with regards to social distancing and how you would do this perhaps in an office. We've taken all of this guidance from the government. As I say, we've turbocharged this. So where we would look at perhaps policies for stairs, lifts, in common areas in a building or an office block. So what it is you would need to do. So we've put in here a great deal more detail. We take links from sites such as ACAS, the Health and Safety Executive, .gov, the CIPD, so professional development, TUC, and a whole host of other areas where we believe that we're getting the best advice. So we've rolled it all into one platform for the business owner, the SME, to understand what it is that they really need to do by way of getting their staff back into work. And you would simply, as a result of completing the questions, you would work through these tasks. And then once you'd set them to complete, so we're at 12% here, once you'd set something to complete, you actually start working through your compliance, and you'll tell the dashboard exactly what it is you've done. Are we still running live, Steve?
Yeah, we are, but if you could cancel your screen share because that's not updating, and we'll just let you talk through the last part.
Oh, right, okay. So we've built all of this technology, and with all of these links, it's like a task management system. We identify where you can save money, where you can reduce your costs, where you can seek some help from other chamber members, by the way, because there's a help functionality built into this. But more importantly, how you need to work to get your staff back into work, causing as little stress as possible. And there is a lot of stress around staff coming back into work, especially if they've been shielding and a whole host of other issues. So it's a task management system that's being deployed through a growing number of chambers at present. It's been, I don't know if I can use the term approved by the Cabinet Office, but they certainly liked it, as well as departments within BAYS. I've written to all of the UK LEP chairs and chairmen with their permission very recently. As I said earlier in my opening remarks, it's a platform, I believe, for the greater good. It's a platform to reduce insolvencies and reduce unemployment. And if we can help in our small way to do that, we see this as an opportunity for our compliance software to help members just do the right thing. It's very easy to deploy. We've got a landing page for the Wandsworth Chamber. You go onto the landing page, you put in your details, you've got a voucher code, and then we simply provide you with free access to this platform in order to help you manage your compliance, your risks, and your people.
Thank you very much. Technology, we've tried screen sharing before. It never seems to work. I think it depends on how strong connections are. But just in a nutshell, you saw how easy it is to actually, with a series of yes/no questions, to get a report on your business. And the screens that you didn't see just very simply put together reports that tell you in a traffic light system where your gaps are. And then it takes you to sections where you can find the original source of information, why you need certain policies and procedures, and it'll help you to develop those. You can either write your own or use templates that are on the system. It's absolutely fantastic that you've made this free. The actual total product has a lot more modules, but these ones are particularly relevant to recovery. So thank you very much for Neil. I don't know if you've got the link, you can put it up in the chat box, but I'll certainly be circulating that later on.
I've put the link there along with the voucher code, Steve, and of course you can provide that to as many people within the community that I think simply needs a bit more help and guidance, free of charge.
This risk dashboard has been tested by a number of our patron members, and one of them was actually the Battersea Power Station. You can imagine the risk they have to assess, and they came back with a very detailed but complementary report on the capabilities of this system. And it's a tool that you can update at your own pace. You don't have to do it all in one go. You can come back to it and develop different policies. Thank you very much, Neil. Zaib, would you like to give us an update on what's happening?
Hi, Steve. Yes, I thought I'll mention Bounce Back Loan, an update on them following questions from last week meeting as well. Metro Bank has announced that they are accredited for the Bounce Back Loan scheme. The portal is still under development, so it means if any of the businesses are banking with Metro Bank, they should hold on because their bank will be making their portal live, I hope very soon. But in meantime, I have also been advising my clients to initiate the banking procedure or set up the bank account with Sterling or the other banks, because it will be good to have it ready with another accredited bank just in case, because we don't know how long it will take for the Metro to launch their portal. All we are hearing, it will come out soon, but no definite answer. But we know the other banks, they are taking new clients only for the sake of distributing loans under bounce back loan scheme. So it's a trial and error. You'll need to go and test different banks by requesting for an application for new bank account. I know HSBC was accepting applications before, but some of our clients have been sent an automated email over the weekend to say that they're not accepting any more new applications. That's it.
All right, thank you very much, Saeed. It's now over to the Q&A session. So I'm just monitoring and asking you to click on the raise your hand button if you have a question to ask. We've had quite a few compliments, Joe, for your talk on how businesses can get back to work. Thank you very much for that. Does anyone have a specific question for Joe? One thing I'd like to ask Joe is, Joe, I know you didn't want to talk about PPE, etc., but obviously customer assistance, how have you adapted the screens to protect public and customer assistance?
Yeah, so what, the sneeze guards on the till points?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've seen these in some smaller local shops as well, so I think they're accessible for everyone to purchase. We purchased quite a few, obviously, for the business as total, and we've placed them on every till point to allow us to keep the tills open. But it basically covers from the point of when you would hit the payment area and it covers the pin point, the pin pad area, and we've also we've started serving coffee again now, takeaway coffee in our stores. So we've put them on those areas as well. So basically anywhere where we believe we need face-to-face interaction, we've put a sneeze guard in place. We are awaiting now for our self-checkouts to have dividers between each one. At the moment, we've only been able to open every other to allow social distancing. Yeah, these will allow us to open more till points, a better flow of customers through the shop, a better experience for everyone. So basically, in essence, what we've done is wherever social distancing becomes difficult and we need to keep trading, we've put a screen in place to stop any transmission between the both of them.
No, thank you very much for that, Joe. A few businesses have asked us. Ravi, you've got your hand up. I'm going to unmute you. Ravi, would you like to pose your question?
Good morning, Steve. Good morning, everyone. Thank you again for allowing me to ask some question today. Referring for my question last week, I heard the gentleman is saying about the Metro Bank is designing the platform to start making the application for BBLS scheme loan. That means the bounce back loan. I'm sure you're aware of it. Just want to ask a question. I applied to Barclays. Obviously, James is looking into it. But I want to ask, I applied from Barclays, but Barclays is delaying to answer me back. Is that okay if I apply with Metro as well, or shall I wait for Barclays to reply me and then go toward Metro? Sorry, okay, answer me. Sorry, mate, answer me. You can answer me, no problem.
I would advise you to wait. One of our clients applied on Friday and has confirmed yesterday that they've received it from Barclays. As I was here in the meeting when James confirmed that he would look into your application. I would.
Yeah, he is in touch with me. Yeah.
So please wait, because it will jeopardize your application if you move banks, because the application has already gone through. So what I would recommend is to wait unless they reject. You shouldn't start the process again.
All right, thank you. And my second question is about the grant from the discretionary grant from the council that we supposed to get for the traders of the market in the Wandsworth. Is there any update that the panel can answer for me for this week? Because we've still been waiting and there's no link on the Wandsworth website.
Yeah. Graham, do you just want to repeat what you said earlier?
Yeah, we're still working on the finer details of the scheme. We're hoping to get the scheme sorted out this week, and then the links and everything will be up on the website, and we'll be doing some communications to get that message out as far and wide as possible.
And do you know how much we are getting? Because Brixton, there's one of my colleagues had got already only proving he got the tenancy agreement and he got his 10,000 grant. We want to know how much we are getting, because he's having very trouble to start our business, as I heard the gentleman was saying about getting the security first, like you need to put your signage, all the investments that you need to put to secure your customer and your staff. We need money to do that. So I want to know exactly how much we gonna get for us to plan our thing, because we are in trouble at the moment. We need to pay rent for the market and everything. Thank you.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I can't tell you that. What I can tell you is that Wandsworth as a whole has been given just under £2.9 million to fund this scheme. We don't really know what level of demand we're going to face from all the businesses that have so far not had any support. So given that, it's just not possible to say how much each individual business will get at this stage. I'm sorry, there's nothing else I can say on that.
Is there a window between this week and next week? So Wandsworth is getting ready to do something about it?
Yeah, we're trying to finalise the scheme this week, and we're hoping we'll go live next week, and then there'll be an online application process. But even then, because we don't know how many businesses are going to apply and be eligible and meet the criteria, we still can't then say how much money individual grants will be, because it's a fixed amount of money that we've got available for a variable number of businesses who may be eligible.
Okay. I just want to bring to the light is one of my fellow colleague from Tooting Market. He had been fraudulently scammed in his account. While he was contacting Wandsworth Council for his grant, they said that had been paid out for him. And he said, I never made any application. And they find out someone else had applied on his behalf and got the money out. So my big question is, how come someone in the market fraudulently had got paid?
Well, I'd have to know the details of the business and the case and have to look at it. I can't say with that limited amount of information what may not have happened. So,
okay, I understand you're not in the position to answer me. My worries was just because we are in the market, still someone had to be able to pay it. So that's why my worries was, okay, I think it's a bit a vast question and you won't be able to come to the point what I'm looking. Anyway, thank you for your answer.
Thank you, Ravi. Do we have any more questions of our panel?
I have a question for Joe, if I may.
Yes.
Joe, are you, when people visit your store, are they expecting you to sell PPE equipment as well? For example, masks or gloves?
No, we have some requests. Obviously, if I'm honest, since government guidelines came out that it's advised to wear face coverings in our shops, then we started to get some requests. I think our biggest request is the visors that we supply our colleagues. A lot of customers want to buy those because obviously a lot of the advice has been that it's a total fake, like you can get into mucous membranes, etc. So they quite like that. Because we obviously PPE is limited and we want to protect the NHS by only taking what we need, we haven't supplied anything that is kind of to the medical degree. We have started supplying kind of reusable face masks. So after the demand, we have started supplying those and bigger pots of antibacterial hand gel. If I'm honest, right at the beginning, it was close to impossible to get any. But as soon as we could, we've given so much. But it's a really fine line between what you give it, what you're selling without trying to, give anything medical away to people while still protecting some crucial parts of our country. But yeah, in short, the answer is we have had requests for certain things. So we've balanced around what we can supply and what we should supply, and thought quite carefully about before we put on our shelves.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, lovely. I have a question for Councillor Cook. Jonathan, I've noticed, well, we're publishing the next issue of Business Connections, the Chamber's magazine, and I was pre-reading the articles, and I noticed that Wandsworth Council is making a huge push for buy local, promoting buy local. Have you any details on how that's going to roll out?
Yeah, well, I think we'll be communicating in every way we possibly can through yourselves, through the bids, all the social media networks. And it's interesting, I think somebody mentioned earlier, there are lots of very, very local, next door and all those sorts of things, which are real neighbourhood stuff. So using all of those means to promote the idea of buying local and supporting local businesses. And it's one of the positives to come out of this situation has been that those businesses that are open, food businesses, do seem to be trading quite well. So that's something we're really keen to encourage. And of course, it relates to so many other things about how people move around, encouraging much more sort of sustainable means of travelling, cycling, walking, which has an impact on air quality, on people's health. I think we can all see there are loads of advantages here, and of course that all ties in with vastly increased home working, which is probably here to stay for some time. So all of these things knit together. So we'll be just communicating any way we can. We'll be really active about that.
Okay, that's great. Richard Hodson, you've been very helpful with pointing us in the right direction on insurance. Is there any update that you can give us at the moment?
Not a huge amount. There's been a court case in France that might have some influence on policies here. There hasn't been a huge shift. The advice, very much following the presentation from Neil earlier, is don't just forget about the other risks associated with COVID. I thought Neil's presentation looked really good. It was a fantastic tool to use for reopening your shops and your businesses. So yeah, where you can use tools like that to make sure that you're taking the COVID element in there as well, but managing all your other risks at the same time.
Okay, Joe, I'm unmuting you.
Thank you. My question, firstly, thank you very much for all of this advice. I've obviously been in touch with Jonathan Cook by email separately. I run a hospitality and events business in Wandsworth. We employ just under 50 people. We obviously cannot organise any gatherings, any corporate events, any hospitality. We're official for Wimbledon, for example. We take thousands of people to that. We have been, as I've mentioned before, incredibly hard hit. All of my staff are currently furloughed, bar 3 of us. We've been going for 20 years. We run a really successful business, but we cannot trade, and it's likely that we will not be able to hold any mass events for 500, 600, 800,000 people, probably until into next year. I appreciate everything you're doing, and I know you're lobbying hard, but how long should we wait? Because whilst everyone's on furlough until the 1st of July, that's fine. But as soon as we start having to contribute, we're already obviously having to pay 100% when they take a holiday, which we've recommended everyone do. But we will have to make mass redundancies, and we employ local staff, mainly young people. And, we desperately don't want to do this, but at the moment we're getting no help. We obviously have to pay business rates on the 1st of June. We have to pay rent. And it's just, how long do we wait?
It's a really good question, Joe, and thank you for writing in. It's an impossible one to answer. If anyone from the panel wants to come in, you're more than welcome. But in your particular circumstances, not only can you not trade in the foreseeable future, but you're looking into next year for the large events. And the question I guess I'd ask is there any way that you can pivot your business to look at other sort of models? And I presume the answer is no. But before I put that back to you, Jonathan, you've unmuted yourself. Did you want to say something?
Yes, well, we'll just say hello to Jodie. Nice to nice to sort of meet virtually. Yeah, we have been in touch. I mean, it's excruciating. Absolutely recognise the problem, and particularly for events businesses. And I've been in touch with several across the borough. We do seem to have a particularly vibrant events business community. Yeah, this business of there isn't a realistic prospect that suddenly it's all going to sort of get going again in July. I completely understand that. It's likely going to be some months. So that's exactly the problem. And so my letter to the business secretary, I think went off on Thursday of last week, makes that point, and I will keep at it. Yeah, we see it as our job to lobby on behalf of the local business community. And there is a gap there in terms of the government support, which has been extraordinary. I mean, we can all see literally, well, hundreds of billions have been spent. It's an extraordinary time, but it does seem to me that, well, I can't really see the logic of why certain parts of the business world have got tremendous support and other parts, yeah, this is one of them, haven't. So yeah, I'm sorry I can't give more right now other than say that we understand the problem and we're really lobbying hard.
Thank you. No, I mean, I know a lot of business owners in the area and obviously in London and abroad. We run huge events, but it just yeah, it's terrifying that we've been completely missed out of all support. Yeah. And, obviously we have spoken to our landlord, who's been amazing, but we had, prior to this, just finished the 3rd floor of built an entire new floor to house more staff because we were growing. We have spoken to them, we've spoken to every single supplier, we've cut every cost, going through Neil's thing, I've done all of that. I've cut every cost. Where I can, but it's now a matter that as soon as furloughing stops, we cannot carry on at this at this pace, and it's just a terrible shame when I've got some of the largest global companies, be it law firms, through huge companies, all saying you're amazing, you've been going for 20 years and we desperately need your support, we can't run our business without you, but there's nothing they can do at the moment. Our order book looks fantastic for next year, and obviously we've never had any loans in the entire 20 years, but we've applied for a bank loan. But it's horrific. Yeah,
absolutely. Steve, can I cut in, please?
Yes, go on, Martin.
Yeah, Joe, I think if it really gets desperate, I think you're going to have to look at a thing called a company voluntary arrangement, whereby you'll freeze all your creditors, including HMRC, the local authority in that. And then next year when you start trading, we can then make you pay the frozen creditors over a long period of time. And also the government, if you do the CVA, the government will pay all your redundancies for your furloughed employees that you're going to, or the employees you're going to have to make redundant. So if you want to have a chat afterwards or a meet up, I'm happy to do that and go through that with you.
Okay.
I think that's like your final resort, but I think you're going to I think companies in the hospitality industry, which in effect I think have been hung out to dry. Yeah. And I think that's what you're going to have to consider.
Okay.
So
well, it would be great.
My details, get them. I can get them from Steve or.
Okay.
I think if we have a meet up, actually, it might be useful for you.
Okay. Perfect. Any advice I would gladly listen to.
Yes, if I may add, another event company that we look after, they had an event in May, and they went for virtual event. I know that wouldn't get them any money in, but it was more to keep their suppliers and customers intact, keeping them informed that they are here. And to be honest, we've also seen they have a turnover of £4 million, 18 staff members. Now what they have done, they've applied for a CBIL. They've shown they have got zero income for the rest of the year, and it would be like starting from scratch from next year. You're in a very good position because you you're saying that you already have a order book for next year, that can really help with the business loan, etc. So I think you're on the right track. What Martin has suggested, CVA, it's music to my ears, because I was going to talk to him about my client in this week anyway. So I think you need to see what others are doing, which is keep up, let your suppliers, customers know you're still there, and at the same time have a cash flow forecast with zero income, and like, you know, something which would show that you will be starting from scratch from next year.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, all sounds very sensible. So we'd love to carry on the conversation, Martin. Thank you.
Steve, can I just say something?
Who's that, Neil?
Yeah, please. Joe, I'm desperately sorry to hear of your predicament. You've only got to look at other members of the your trade and sector, such as what was the Tragus Group, and you know, all of these guys. It's very disappointing. I wasn't going to mention this, but you appear to have sort of like prompted me. There is a next stage to all of this, and sadly, coming through the COVID-19 crisis, and that's what businesses do next. So we're actually looking to develop with a couple of partners. One is a HR company we work with. The other is a company of accountants called Cllr. They're a top 10 firm in the UK. And we're now developing another module onto this free application for directors to understand, you know, what are the implications next if business is not looking as hopeful as we'd all like them to be. CVA is clearly one of these things. I don't know how you pay yourself, Joe, as a director. Perhaps your director's loan account. If there's no revenue or profit being shown in the loan account, then you may need to change the way you pay yourself. You know, there are a number of different risks and liabilities, perhaps opportunities as well, that we're exploring. You know, there will be an element of redundancies. 758,000 added to the unemployment register last month. I suspect that's going to be increased considerably in May. All very sad, but we still need to have a plan and how we work through this. So that will be another module we're going to add onto this to help businesses understand what it is they need to do internally to support their organisations and their people.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Watch this space, Steve.
Lovely. Martin, if you could put your contact details on the chat box, it'll be easy for
no problems.
Pick those up when we share them. Thank you, Joe. I'm going to move on to Mark. Justin, Mark, you've got your hand raised. I'm going to unmute you now.
Okay, it's hopefully just a quick one for Joe. I thought Joe was fantastic, by the way, coming on and talking to us with the Marks and Spencer experience. But he's pointed out something that I had completely not thought of, and he has obviously, is at the moment, people are queuing on the pavement to go into stores, whereas, you know, 9 out of 10 shops are closed. So you're queuing right across the front of someone else's business. When you said that you have spoken to your neighbours about the queuing issue, you didn't actually go into how you've resolved it, because you've got one shop that might have 10, 15, 20 people queuing, going right across the front of someone else. Now, you can keep your 2 metres in front, but are you going to have 2 sets of queues that are parallel with each other, in which case they've got to be 2 metres apart? And hey, London street pavements aren't that wide, so I don't see how you're going to do it.
Yeah, you're completely right. It's a brand new problem that we've got, and I was in a comfortable place last week where I thought all my measures were in place, and this is a new now for us. So look, I haven't spoken to all of them yet, because it's quite a new thing, and we're only just learning really from this weekend when people are opening. But I spoke to a little shop next to me, and they're pretty comfortable. They won't really have queues in terms of their capacity. So I haven't really got a right answer in terms of this is what it's going to look like. I think what I'm going to have to do is, within the first few days of opening, is spend the majority of my time outside on that pavement and reacting to however each one of us start trading. I know some stores have started taping up some parts of their floor, but I think if I go back to some of my other points around an efficient, well-managed queue capacity, etc., all this point, I think if we all really think of that as the starting point and make sure we're as efficient as possible and controlled as possible, hopefully we can limit it. But you're right, there's queues out there right now, and it's a new thing. It's actually been referenced in the government guidelines that come out this week. I haven't gone into it too much detail, but it'll be worth reading that as well. But I think I'm going to plan as much as I can of how we can navigate and potentially leave gaps between certain shop fronts if our queue does go in front of her. But I think the best thing I can do, and we can all do, is in the first few days spend time outside with our business partners and our communities and our neighbours, and talk to each other on how best to approach it from all angles. Because if we all ignore it and don't go outside of our shops and our business units, it could be quite dangerous actually in terms of how we're keeping each other safe.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
But it's a really good question and really good point. And I maybe if it was 2 months ago, I would have given you some points of what I've done, but I'm in the same point at the moment actually. So hopefully we can share some stuff going forward together.
Thank you.
Just if I could add from the council's point of view, Steve Diamond from the Economic Development Office. So we are actively thinking about this, as you might imagine, the cumulative impacts of everyone opening. And I think the key thing, as Joe said, is collaboration. We will try and encourage that where we can. We can't be everywhere at once. One thing that is happening, you might have seen on different high streets, is that the highways teams are starting to use bollards and temporary measures to widen footways and the rest. So we're trying to create more space on that, but I think probably the key thing is to avoid that congregation of queues and crowds, and particularly where it's near bus stops and the like. And I think where that might happen, please do contact us and we will see what can be done to try and make as best provision as possible. Where it can't happen, then I think you need to think about things like phased opening hours or something, or more intense queue management along those lines. But we're actively working to think about this prior to the 15th of June. But I think the message is that we're finding it as challenging as everyone. So collaboration and cooperation is really key here, because the last thing we want is obviously unsafe conditions and a recurrence of the outbreak. But yeah, perhaps that's something that we might be able to cover at a future forum. Yeah,
it'd be great to have a resource where we could issue free PPE equipment to people on pavements and queues. That's being hopeful. We need a great benefactor for that one. So thank you for that, Mark. Marjan, you've got your hand raised. I'm going to unmute you to ask your question.
Yes, hi. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Steve. My question is for Richard, and actually I've been in communication with Richard in the last few days regarding my own, outstanding claim with my insurer. But going forward with some reopenings is going to happen, and if all businesses, I guess, eventually the next few months, they're going to be back to some form of operations. I guess nobody is here that they had a COVID-19 cover with the insurance. So hence, whatever insurance we have is a bit useless if we want to go back, it's going to be a bit useless in terms of giving us any coverage. How are we supposed to go on about this element of running or returning to business? What sort of advice can we be given? Shall we cancel our policy right now and start looking to buying other policies now, or shall we wait? So what's the wisdom here, really?
Blunt truth, it was never the intention of any policy to cover a pandemic, and some insurers have found themselves slightly exposed and do have an element to cover. Joe, I think you might be A-OK. Yeah, I've been dealing with Alex quite a lot because you've luckily got one of the policies which has that loophole in it. But in terms of kind of going back and trying to get cover for this, you're not. It's going to be impossible. It's not enough premium. The premiums would be too high, so you're not going to be able to get that. Hopefully, the government's going to step in at this stage, as they have done with Cllr, as they have done with terrorism, as they have done with Flood Re for the flood cases. So that's going to be down the line. One of the things you should be doing from an insurance, and Neil, as Neil referred to earlier on the risk side, is making sure that you are mitigating your exposures to your clients and customers from that, because whilst you may not have a business interruption element, you still have a public liability and an employer's liability exposure there, and you have to your employer's liability will cover you as response, so you don't need to worry about that too much. Your public liability, you will have to show that you're taking mitigating steps to safe and to be acting in best practice. So that's what you'll have to do there. I should only get sick and you got sick and your side. It'll be impossible to prove. So, but we should be looking at those steps as Joe was talking about. So trying to be as sensible as possible. With regards to kind of buying future cover for this, I'm afraid it's that horse is 100% bolted. But yeah, use Neil's tools. Those are great. Take Joe's advice. That's brilliant. And yeah, I got your email earlier. I don't think you'll be able to buy the cover for this for COVID. Even these specialist events policies will exclude this going forwards. They'll cover the next COVID, whatever that will be, but it'll still be a lot of money. Business will want to spend it.
Marjan, I don't know if that answers your question totally. Richard, whilst you're on there, put a question in the chat box. Does anyone have experience of running customer referral schemes? Exactly what were you looking for?
Prior to COVID, we've very much been a commercial insurance broker who've done a little bit of private client work. My background before investing into the business was dealing a lot with private clients, and we were looking to do more of a referral scheme, rewards. There's some FCA regulations we've got to go around, but in terms of client acquisition and schemes which can be done for people who refer business clients to us in that way. So I've not kind of done that before, but other aggregators out there, other websites, other people who help you put together reward platforms, anything like that for people who refer business into you. Post-COVID, I was thinking if we can kind of try and share the love as much as possible, if people can scratch each other's backs, is that something which is of interest?
Okay, thank you for that. I understand what you're getting at. From my personal experience, referral schemes tend not to work for smaller businesses, simply because, and especially at the COVID crisis time, people are more worried about their own businesses than trying to help someone else. It's much easier sometimes to develop referral partnerships with other businesses where you're looking out for each other. Totally different for the high street retailers, the huge, all the big supermarkets will have referral schemes and they work great, but they're pouring a lot of money into it. But for the smaller referral schemes, I really do think building your own network of referral partners, like working with accountants and lawyers, and sometimes even setting up your own networking meetings with them, perhaps meeting once a week or once a month and just talking about the types of customers you're dealing with and the sectors that you're operating in, and building the trust between you will often lead to a very, very good referral opportunity for you. I don't know if that helps. I don't know if, Joe, you wanted to come in on any of the schemes that M&S are running at the moment and how they work.
Which ones in particular?
The loyalty type schemes.
Yeah, so we do loads of stuff really. So we have a loyalty card anyway, and loyalty program through our Sparks card, which we've had for a few years. And in terms of gathering data as well, it's invaluable for us. I think our biggest bit around referrals and schemes we obviously have the bank. If I'm honest, I'm probably not the best person to speak to in terms of that side, because it's a separate business for us. It's run by HSBC. But there's loads, and if anyone wants to pop into the store and I can kind of show them all the different bits we do, I'm happy to go through it. But yeah, Sparks is our biggest loyalty program right now.
Okay, thank you for that, Joe. Yeah, totally a different market, Richard, but I'm always happy to talk to you offline on perhaps how you can set up your own referral network. I'll probably close the meeting now. So thank you to everyone. Sort of in the 10th week of lockdown, and it seems to be coming to an end slowly. Next week we will be having the 10th Wandsworth Coronavirus Business Forum, and we'll be featuring Andrew Slade from South Thames College. And South Thames College are an excellent example of a business that works with thousands of businesses locally, and some of the partnerships they've developed which really do help businesses through recovery, and they're offering lots of training opportunities for local people. So with that, I'm going to leave you. Thank you very much to all of our speakers. It's really helpful. I constantly get lots of compliments about the value of this business forum, and please, yeah, to everyone who's attended, keep attending and spread the word, and it will help as many people as we can. So with that, I'm going to close. Thank you very much.